Hello everybody. I wanted to put this video together, basically just to walk through the process that I've been following to convert from what I'd been using for quite a long time, a decade or more, of Windows Media Center over to a new Media Center software called KODI, or previously known as XBMC. As many of you are aware, when Windows 10 came out, there was no longer support for Windows Media Center. Under Windows 8, while it didn't come pre-packaged with it like it did under Windows 7 and previous versions, you could at least pay $10 and get it the add-on, or if you were right on the ball in the beginning, they offered it for free for a little bit of time after the original Windows 8 software was released. So it was at least available, but now on Windows 10 it's not. And you can see on this computer I'm running Windows 7 still, just because I wanted to use Windows Media Center, which is something I've been using for about 10 years. Very easy to use, very easy to set up, and very easy to maintain software that comes built in with Windows in the past. Now I want to convert all of this over to another program that at least will be kept up to date more frequently and can be compatible with Windows 10 and future versions of Windows. So I have begun the process to convert my home theater computer systems over to a new program called KODI, or XBMC, and I just want to document that somewhat. So this video will be specific to me and my process to convert from Windows Media Center to KODI, but the steps are basically the same. So if you're looking for a general how-to on how to set up all of your media, be on physical DVD, Blu-ray media, or media that you've even ripped to your hard drives already, and like in my case, this should still apply to you. So I hope it's helpful. But you can see here one of the issues, when you did use Windows Media Center, one of the nice things about it is I used to use a program called DVD Fab. It's very easy to use. You did have to pay for it. In my case, I only paid for the DVD ripping and conversion functionality. So I didn't actually use it for Blu-rays, but it was very simple. I could just rip my DVDs over to the standard DVD format, the Video TS and Audio TS folder systems, and Windows Media Center would pick it up. I could click on whatever I want, play it, and it would pop up just as if I was playing a DVD in a DVD or Blu-ray player. I did the same for my TV shows. In this case, you can see I have Monk here. I did the same for those. The only downside to me is, while you can see here this is season 2 and there's 4 DVDs, it really provides no information as to which DVD in the series that is. So I can't tell if this is DVD 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be. So sometimes it's very easy. They do put it in order, but oftentimes it wasn't. I understand there's probably better ways to do this, and I did try to use programs like My Movies to organize these things a little bit better, but I could never really get that to work very well, and so I stuck with this. But while this is okay under Windows Media Center, KODI does not read these types of files for TV, DVD series. It's fine for movies, and so if you're using a program like DVD Fab 8 or you rip them into that format, KODI will find and archive and sync those into the system just fine. It did take a little extra work now to get ready for the TV shows to convert into KODI because of the way the scraper and the system expects those series to be laid out. And that's what we're going to discuss in this first video. So I'll probably have 2 parts. One will be the actual setup for the audio or media, either the physical or RIP media, using a couple different programs, in my case Make MKV or Handbrake, and then the second video, the actual setup and configuration of KODI to get to at least the system setup that I had under Windows Media Center, and probably my ultimate case, an even better setup than I had before. And so I'm going to stick with Make MKV and Handbrake today, primarily because those are free. If you want to use a paid program, go for it. but you can do anything and everything you need to do with just these two bits of software right here. So one of the challenges that I had is in my system, I basically have a bunch of DVDs ripped to my computer, and had two main Windows Media Center computers on which all that information was housed, and then I had three other ones, including those two, five in total, but three others that didn't have any actual physical DVD rips or DVD rips or Blu-ray rips contained on them. All they did was connect up to the other two systems and read the information from there. And one main system that had my four tuners in it. I don't have cable or satellite. I just have free over-the-air. So that one computer with the four tuners in it basically recorded all of our TV shows, and the other four computers basically could view the TV show recordings on to that. So before we get into this too much, one of the things I want to point out is that there's one step you should probably take if you're like me. And under my Windows computers, everything was basically set up under a home group. You can see I don't have a home group set up anymore, but all five computers had in the past had been running a version of Windows, Windows 7 or Windows 8. And I could set them up under a home group, and then every computer was basically visible under the network settings that way. Very easy initial setup, and it did make for mapping the drives pretty easy, because when you went into Media Center to map the drives, it could see all the available drives that you had shared on any of those computers. I did make a couple changes. So while I am converting over to KODI, I even did institute a couple new devices in the system, where I'm using a Raspberry Pi on one TV and a very small form factor computer on the other. So I didn't want to have the additional overhead that came with Windows on those two PCs. So I'm using a program called OpenELEC. I'm not going to really walk through that now, but basically it's just a Linux derivation that has just enough Linux on it to allow booting into the system, and then it boots right into KODI. So very little overhead, very small footprint, and very fast, both to install and to boot. And there is another program called LibreELEC, which you could try as well. So either of those two are really good, and but it did require I couldn't use home group on those, so I did have to make some changes to especially the two main computers that house all my data. And the first thing I needed to do was to establish a static IP address for those two devices. And so I'm going to walk quickly through how to do that. Basically, if you're on Windows 7 like me, you could just come down here to this little icon. I'm on a wired network as opposed to wireless, so you may see a different icon there for your network. Just click on Open Network Connection and Sharing. And then when this box pops up, you'll just want to look over here to change adapter settings. Like I said, if you have more than one network available within your box, either wireless or wired or something like that, you may have two options, but in my case I just have it hardwired to a one NIC, and this is it. So I'm just going to right click on this and select Properties. And then right here you'll see a series of options, but everybody should have this version right here, Internet Protocol version 4. That's the one you're going to want to adjust. Click Properties for there, and then you'll see here this gives you the option to change that. If you haven't already set one up before, your box is probably the buttons are probably checked for obtain an IP address automatically, and then obtain a DNS server address automatically, and then there's nothing filled in these boxes. So to do a manual IP address configuration is very easy. You just need to fill in the information here. And for me, I'll show you basically what all I had to do was I have a Linksys router connected on my network that controls my wireless and my basically hardware DHCP server. And so in order to do that, I just basically have to log into that server or that device. Why is that not working? 192.168.1.1. Okay, and then Yours may be different, but this basically takes you to your router configuration page, and a couple of things to check out here. As you can see, your first thing is your subnet mask, and that's going to map back to this subnet mask right here. The default gateway will be the default IP address assigned to the router, and that's the one that you probably will end up putting here. But if you have any questions, you can see that it's this one right here. So router address, IP address 192.168.1.1. I don't think I changed that, so that's probably going to be the default for any home type network router system. In this case, you can see I've set it up, or it's been set up for a maximum number of 50 users, and to start on IP address 1.5. So basically, to get 50 users, has available IP address range of 192.168.1.5 to 54. So in my case, I knew what the IP address was of this particular device. You can do that by going into the command window and looking up running the ipconfig command, and I use that information to identify this. In theory, you could use any IP address within that range, so long as it isn't already in use by another device. And to know what's actually in use by another device, in my case, I'll just click the status, then local network, and then I've got this option for DHCP client table. If I click that, it pops up a device that tells me all of the available devices on my network. So that's pretty straightforward for anybody that needs to set that up. And then basically what you'll do is you'll come back to here, you'll put that information here. Remember, we already talked about where to get this information. Your DNS server is the same as the default gateway, in my case at least, and then just click OK. Once you do that, I would suggest you reboot. In my case, it couldn't find the network right away. Once I rebooted, then it did, and everything's been fine. But what that will do is allow you to be able to find your devices on the network using the IP address instead of the computer name, which is essentially how the network finds the information once you're in a home group. So once you've done that, you can basically begin the conversion process. So in my case, as I mentioned, I had many of my TV shows. I'll show you one of the folders. I created separate folders on each of the drives for movies and TV. You can see movies, TV, and then these are like my rips of my Monk series, and this is the one I set up for the KODI install. So once you're here, this is the way it rips the raw DVD. You can see season 1 has 4 DVDs and disc 1, 2, 3, and 4. So each of those will appear separately, but the new setup is basically like this. You have one master folder for the TV series name, in my case Monk, and then a separate set of subfolders for each season. And then within that, you're going to have different and separate files for each of the individual episodes. And the naming convention is important. In this case, it's just the name of the TV show, Monk in this case, and then season 01, episode 01. Or it could be season 10, episode 09 or something. Whatever it is, as long as that naming convention's there, KODI won't have any trouble picking it up. And as long as this folder structure is set up just this way, it won't have any issues picking it up. But to do that, in my case, since I already had it ripped, I basically could just open Handbrake. And what you want to do when you're in here, before I start, one thing you're going to need to make sure you do, because Handbrake by default will not read or open encrypted DVDs, which are basically going to be anything that you are going to buy at the store or Amazon or someplace like that. You're going to need to install this libdvd CSS file. I'll include a link to this in the description, but basically you'll see 2 folders here, Win32, Win64. You just want to go there and then download whichever one correlates to the version or the type of Windows you have installed. In my case, it was Win64, so I just downloaded this. And what you'll do is you'll basically just, once it's downloaded, you'll come over to your C drive where Handbrake is installed. And mine's a 64-bit, so it installed program files. and then it installed it into Handbrake. And so you just paste it into there. And then what this will do is allow Handbrake to be able to decrypt the DVD, to be able to open and see the contents without having to use some sort of other program. This is a little bit different than the cracking method, or using a program like DVD Fab, or programs that used to be available like Any DVD, which is out of business now. While those are, mired in lawsuits from the TV studios, LibDVD CSS is being somewhat maintained by the VideoLAN team, and so that's where you can get it. So you download videolan.org, VLC Media Player, that's the same thing. So anyway, go get that and then copy it in. Note, you'll see some things that require that you rename this to take out the -2. Not necessary. Just put it in there, and then Handbrake will be able to decrypt and read the source of the DVD. So if you have a DVD, or you don't have to do that if it's already been ripped, but or if everything's been ripped, but it's good practice to do in case you add some DVDs down the road. So what you'll want to do to open the source is just click this source button right here, and you'll see I have 3 different options, only because I have a Big Bang Theory Season 5 disc in my Blu-ray drive in this computer. And so you can either choose that if you have the disc in there, or you can navigate to the folder by clicking Folder, and then I could just go over to again my C drive. Oh, that's movies. Sorry, different folder. So I want to go here, Video, TV, and then I would select this one. Select Folder. Once you select it, it doesn't matter whether you select a DVD or the folder, it basically works the same. I will say, obviously, a ripped folder will scan. That scan only took a few seconds. And on occasion, the DVDs will take longer, I would say 15 to 30 seconds, and on occasion, maybe even a little bit longer, depending on the speed of your DVD drive and the speed of your computer, but shouldn't take too long. So when you do that, basically what you'll see now, here you can see the source, in this case Monk Season 1 Disc 1, and it'll say Title 1. This is 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 10 seconds. So first thing you're going to want to do, because this needs to be at the episode level, is click this button, and what you're going to see here is all of the individual chapters or episodes that are contained within this disc. So in my case, the very first one is always going to be the entire disc. So in this case, you can see 2 episodes here, and I can tell that by the general length, 43, 44 minutes for a full-length hour show, which Monk is. And if I were to look at Big Bang Theory, it's probably in the 20-minute, 21-minute range for the whole episode. So this particular disc only contains 2 episodes. Episode 1 for 43 minutes, 58 seconds, episode 2, 44 minutes and 9 seconds. You can see these other ones, a minute 7, 24 seconds, 14 seconds, clearly just some extras or something that we don't need. So you don't want to select the first one, because all that's going to do is aggregate both into one single file, but we want to select the first one down that looks like what it is. So in this case, we'll just select this first one, and that's going to now change. You don't see anything, do anything, because it really doesn't need to. It's already scanned the disk, but you can see now title shows 2, title number 2, and the first episode that we selected. So before we go on, you'll want to come over here to this section here. If you're going to just rip it for DVD purposes, like to watch on TV, like I will, like a home theater computer, you'll want to do either normal or high profile. I do the high profile. And then you can make some changes to this section here if you want to. I usually just leave this, and then I come over to the video section, and you'll see, I want to click this here, because look at this, optimize the video section right here. You'll see right now it's at medium, and if you go normal, it's very fast. So normal will convert the file very much faster or more quickly than the other high profile method will, but in my case, when I did normal, and you may want to test this on a couple episodes before you go full on, like I did, to do a whole season of a TV show and then find out that you don't like the quality of it. or that it looks like crap. So in my case, I chose high profile, which gave a medium optimization, and I also suggest you play with this slider right here. And you can see from the pop-up that it has some suggested values there. I can't move my mouse because it's going to go, but you can see suggested values are 18 to 20 for standard definition and 20 to 23 for high definition. So in this case, basically, this is the quality of the video. Now, my first inclination was was to go all the way over here because I want high quality and I want it to be lossless. But the problem with this is, while you may end up with a lossless file, you end up with a file size that's probably 4 or 5 times larger than the original source file size. So in my case, like one DVD episode may have been, less than a gigabyte, raw ripped from the DVD, or that was my end result, or around a gigabyte or so each episode. But the lossless, or when I put down a placebo quality here, you can see it ended up being maybe 3 to 5 gigabytes. So no additional quality, but 3 to 5 times additional size. And so, I mean, if you have a drive setup where drive space isn't at a premium, then go for it. But it does seem it's a waste, and there's no need to do so. So I found that 18 to 20 was not as good as I wanted it. So I probably found something around the 15 range, maybe 14, somewhere in that range, that I really like to use. And so I did mine in that quality, and I was pretty happy with it. I think 18 to 20 probably looked okay on a 1080p TV, but I do have one 4K TV, and those at 18 to 20 looked just terrible. Which DVD isn't going to look great on a 4K TV, I get that, and I did convert some of my stuff, like Big Bang Theory. I bought the whole season in Blu-ray, and it looks significantly better. But for Monk, which I didn't want to have to buy the whole series again, I basically just kept it in DVD, and 15 looks pretty good. So that's up to you. That's your choice. Play with it. I would suggest rip an episode or two before you go full on. Container, you can choose MP4 or MKV. I choose MKV, pretty universal container file type. Now here, this is where you're going to save it and name the file. Pretty easy, just decide where you want to put it. In my case, I'll just put it at the desktop. And what you do want to do, though, is make sure you follow the right naming convention. And Monk, and then season, so S01 and episode 01. You always have to follow that convention. So I'll copy this, and then I click Save. All right, so now it's ready to go. But I don't want to click Start. What I want to do, now if you're just going to test this, go ahead and click Start and see your output, and then you can adjust as you need to. But once I'm ready and I know what quality I want, what I want to do is I want to click this button to Add to Queue. This is kind of nice because what it'll do is allow you to add some stuff to the queue, maybe an entire season, or if you're running it from a disk, you can probably only do one disk at a time. But in my case, I had them all already ripped to my computer, so I could select an entire season. So I would do this. I've got episode 1. Now I'm going to go up here. I'm going to select episode 2. You see it doesn't keep your naming convention, so I just do this, paste it in, and then I can just say 2. Add to queue. Now you can see I've got 2 encodes pending, and if I wanted to, I could go back to my source folder and select season number 2, go back to TV, or disk number 2, season 1, disk 2, and then I can select the folder. It's going to do a quick scan. And then in here, you can see again, I've only got, this one's interesting because it doesn't have the full one, but this one has 3 episodes on here, and these 2 are junk. So I can do this one, and then I would just select, I'll just go back here, do this, and say 3. Now you can notice as I'm making these changes, none of this stuff changes. This it keeps from same to same. I can add to encode, and then 3 encodes impending. If you do a DVD, again, you're limited to the number of episodes that are on the disk because it's going to need to read from that disk. But once you're done, basically you can go up to here and you can say either show queue to see what you want, or you can basically just click start. And what it'll do is it'll start encoding all of the items that are in your queue. And you can see this, if I click this, it has them all, and I can even click start from here. So it's pretty nice to do this for your TV shows. I did this basically a season or two at a time because I had all mine ripped and I could, and then I would just let it run at night. The particular computer that I'm on now is on a Core i3 with 4 gigs of memory, so it isn't a super high-end computer, but I do have 2 other computers that basically have Core i7s, and so I did the encoding on those 2, and significantly faster than on the Core i3, which probably took at least twice as long to do a single episode. So, and again, the higher quality and the more you put this over to here, placebo, slow, and all that, the longer it's going to take to do your encoding. So keep that in mind as well. So there's a trade-off, but that's essentially all you have to do. And then once you're done, you should have your seasons set up correctly, and then you should be done with your TV shows. For movies, again, if you want to use this program, you can just do the same thing. Click Source, open the folder, go here, and we'll look at the movies. And in this case, I'll just say 300 because that's a DVD. Select folder, and then I can do the same thing here, and I'll end up with an MKV. Or if you have another program like DVD Fab, that'll work too. If it's already ripped, there's no need to convert it. If you're starting from scratch, this is a good thing. You can do this. Or the other program is called Make MKV. So in this case, it's already loaded up the type of DVD from Big Bang Theory 5, Season 5, Disc 1. So I'm just going to click the button. Basically, that's all you got to do. It'll start to scan this. Now, a couple things about MKV while this is running. It is, you can see here, Make MKV Beta. It is free while this software is in beta. If you want this, you basically just need to go to makemkv.com, and you can go to download, and then you can download the newest version from there. Now, what I usually do as well is I'll try to find the, I'll do this, make MKV beta key, and then usually it's the very first one. I think it's always at this page, so I'll go ahead and put this in the link as well. But once you've done installing it, basically all you do is get a copy of this link, this key into there, and it's usually valid for 2 months at a time. So this key, you can see this was, well, it doesn't have the right date on here, but this was posted in June, so it was good for June and July. So hopefully at the beginning of August they'll post another one that'll probably be good for August and September. Or you can buy it if you want, up to you, and you won't have to make any changes. The only downside to being in beta is you have kind of forced upgrades, and every 2 months you got to come back and get a new key. All right. So once it's done, you'll get this kind of layout here. In this particular case, because it's a Season 5 Disc 1, it's a TV show, so you'll see it's got the whole disc right here, 7.7 gigabytes, or it's got a list of the individual episodes that are contained within that disc. So if you want to use Make MKV, I would just unselect the very first one. You can keep all of these that you want to have set up. If it were me, what I usually do is I select each one, and then down in here you can see there's a couple options that we just really don't need. I don't need subtitles for Thai, Spanish, Portuguese, or any of this kind of stuff. So I'll just click in here and I'll say unselect all, and you can see because I'm in this drop down, it only selected these. And then I can just do the English. And then if you want subtotals, that's okay. I have found though that once you select this, they're forced subtitles. Basically, you see them whether you want them or not. The only downside to using this methodology is that you don't have the DVD or Blu-ray menu options like you would otherwise. But again, if you're going to rip TV shows, you kind of are forced to do it in a certain format and folder structure so that KODI can pick them up correctly. It's never been a problem for me, at least since I've been using KODI and had this conversion, but nevertheless, that's what you would do. And then, so once you select the ones that you want, you got to go down and select them for each individual one, unfortunately. So you just go down the list, select, go down here, do the same. And then you get the idea. You just go down and do the rest of these, and then when you were ready, you'll just basically click MKV or make MKV, this button right here, and it'll create individual ones for each TV episode. Same goes for a Blu-ray, for TV shows in a Blu-ray. The only thing I've found when you rip TV shows in a Blu-ray is, and when I just did this for Big Bang Theory, is that when you rip them, they don't seem to be in any order. So while you may see them in an order like this, it does not mean that the first one is necessarily the first episode on the disc. It could be this one, could be this one, it could be this one. So it was kind of a pain in the butt, but every time I ripped the Blu-rays especially, then I would have to go through and open up each episode to try to determine which one was the correct episode in terms of the order. So in some cases it was correct, in case that would be 1, 2, 3, but in some cases it was backwards, and otherwise it was, maybe this one was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8 or something like that. So anyway, kind of a pain in the rear end, and if anybody knows any better ways to do this or better software that rips this a lot more easily, certainly would love to hear it, but these are the best ways I've found to do it. It's pretty quick, pretty easy, pretty straightforward, but again, you had to go through and do them. Probably not as bad if you're just going to do one season at a time, but because I bought all 8 seasons of Big Bang Theory to replace all the DVDs that I had, it got a little mind-numbing to do. To go through and open each one and then look on IMDb to try to figure out which episode it was based on some of the content. So, but it's all set up now, at least seasons 1 through 8, so not a big deal. All right, so I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to put a Blu-ray disc in for a movie, just so I can show you that as well, because it's a little bit different. Okay, so I've now put in a DVD movie, or a Blu-ray movie. I mean, this is Marvel's The Avengers, so you can see this is the main page. I'm going to click this button just like I did before, and it's going to open the disc up to break the encryption, and it's going to go through and try to find the different chapters. I just wanted to show you this just because the way MKV will show the movie folder structure once it gets finished analyzing is a little bit different. Like when I rip a Blu-ray or a DVD with DVD Fab, it's fairly simple. There's only a few options, and but this one does take a little more effort. It's not hard. You just have to understand what you're seeing. So I'm gonna pause and then come back once it's done opening the Blu-ray disc. Okay, well, that took about a little bit longer than I'd anticipated, probably 3 to 4 minutes, but I think that's more an indictment on my Blu-ray drive within this computer that I've been having some issues with than anything else. It probably usually shouldn't take more than a minute or so, maybe even less time, so it shouldn't take that long, but I think that's a problem with my disc. But anyway, so this is the structure that you're going to get to choose from when you're presented just this one disc, and this is probably maybe one of the worst ones you'll see. I just bought Rocky the other day on the Prime Day sale, and it had only one, so that makes it easy. But oftentimes there's multiple chapters contained within here, and some of these you can tell are clearly just special features, maybe commentary, things like that. But it's pretty easy to, again, look at the sizes of them. You'll see some of these are pretty small, and you'll see these two 34.4 gigabytes. They're both the same. So the movie's clearly going to be one of those. So I'm just going to unselect. And in my case, I'm just going to select this one. I'm not sure what the difference is. One just has one more chapter, but I think in the end, I'm basically going to get the same movie. I'm not sure. I've never had a problem with either of these. Could be that if one has a two different versions of the movie on it, maybe. I don't think this DVD or this Blu-ray does, but if it had maybe two different versions, like theatrical or director's cut or something like that, maybe that's what it is. But normally you'd expect to see two different sizes. But I usually will just select the one that's the largest in case to make sure I get the right things. So in this case, I'm going to select this one. We do want to select this little drop down here and make some changes like we did in the past. So you'll see that there's some options, different options in here for audio. Usually I'll just select the English audio ones. And in my case, I don't want the subtitles. I don't want them at all. While it says some of them, it would give you the impression there's subtitles and then subtitles that are forced, meaning they'll come up on the screen regardless. I've not had good luck whether I've selected this one or both of these. It seems they both force their way onto the screen and you see them whether you want them on or not. So if you want them, great, go for it. If you don't want them, just leave them off. So I usually select these options. So I have the English audio, and then I'm not sure what this is, but I usually include the cover. I don't know if that helps anything, but it may not do anything. So I do those, and then basically from here it's the same. Just select this button, and it'll go through and create a file that is going to be large. So in this case, it's fairly large. It's just a regular rip. It isn't going to be any different between from the original. So if you do want to make it smaller, you could always run it through a different program, maybe like Handbrake, to edit it after the fact. But in my case, I do want it to be as high quality as possible. So I keep it in the original raw format. So in this case, I'll just select this one, and I would run make MKV, and it will export it. So you can see here it's going to put it into this folder called Marvels _ Avengers. More often than not, that's okay. I will say that we'll talk a little bit more about the scrapers, but KODI has what they call scrapers, which are the programs that run in the background to analyze the movies or TV shows that are ripped on the disc and correlate the correct movie name with them. It is important that this be as correct as possible. If you do have any issues or any questions on what it is, there is the moviedb.org. This is the site that it's going to use. This is the scraper that KODI will use for the movies. So if any questions, you can go search for the movie here, or you can go here to, I think it's the tvdb.org, or maybe it's just tvdb.org. Yeah, nope. I guess here, tvdb.org. I don't think this is going to be it either. Well, I'll get that one. I wouldn't worry about it at this point. Either one of these two, I would rip it. Make sure this is at least somewhat correct. Sometimes it'll just say Title 1 or something like that. But the more correct this can be up front, the less work it's going to be for you down the road. So once you do, though, rip the Blu-ray, what you'll see is, let me try to find one that's actually a Blu-ray here. Go down to Harry Potter. This one here. What you'll find is this. You'll see one file in here. This says VLC Media. Just it renamed it, but you can see it's MKV. It's almost 19 gigabytes. This is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And so this one will have just this file. Basically, will be in there, and then this file will get added after it scrapes. These ones are because I have my movies set up to use under Windows Media Center. So you may not see these in yours ever, but you'll likely see a couple of these. And so I did have to rename some of these, but I'll talk more about that in the KODI section. I would just, again, try to make it as good as possible up front. But you can see here too, still Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, all those underscores, and it picked it up just fine. But I think I did have to change the file name in here. So hopefully that's all pretty straightforward. Again, make MKV, handbrake, and you can use those conversions. Make sure you follow the structure for the TV shows, which again is the name of the TV show, all folder for each season, and then basically the name of the TV show, S01, episode E01, or however it is for yours, for whichever season or episode you're doing. And then the movies, basically either use this or make MKV, and you can just make sure that it's as good as possible in the name. One of the challenges is you'll see sometimes that it's going to add an underscore .to3 or TO1 or T00. You don't really have much control over that in the beginning, but once it's ripped, take that out because that'll throw off the KODI movie and TV show scrapers. So hopefully this made sense. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave them in the comments below. And if you want to see the second second video, which is going to be basically the setup and configuration of the actual KODI system on this computer and the reading of these, please look for that as well. Thank you, and look forward to comments.